Hey guys, Andy here with Authentic Nerds Don't Yield. This is my spoiler review for episode 3 of season 2 of X-Men 97. So if you haven't seen the first two, check them out, and obviously watch the show before you see these reviews. So going into it quickly, so this episode is heavily about A.N.D.Y, who's Apocalypse prior to becoming kind of how we know him from the comics in the show. So it takes place in Egypt, like 3000 BCE. So really cool. The one thing I really enjoyed about it, with the setting and like the ancient Egypt vibes and everything, was just I remember one movie. It's not necessarily Egypt, but I remember growing up watching El Dorado and just seeing all the gold and all the cool necklaces and bracelets and stuff. And like I feel like I haven't seen that in animation or anything forever. So that was really cool. Obviously, Prince of Egypt is a great movie too. But yeah, it's nice when there's more to a story in a comic thing than just like the heroes and villains. Like they add more setting or historic stuff. So I thought that was really cool. Um, just something little. It's nice to have cool designs and everything. And then so right away we get the OG intro with the X-Men theme and everything. And it was more so the original team rather than like last episode we had X Factor and X Force, and then it was pretty similar to the last season, but obviously some new scenes and new cuts and everything. But it was pretty cool. So I'm sure going forward we'll get more or less the same of that. And then I didn't really think about who would be like talking to young Apocalypse in this show. So the fact that it was Magneto, I thought was really sick, because Magneto is obviously like up to shit, trying to kind of persuade him into going into the future with different mindsets. So we later find out that he's doing everything, or he's trying to convince Apocalypse basically to kind of be good and like wage his war with that like Magneto and Charles want. And it definitely doesn't work, but it's an interesting concept to try and like really change history, because that usually never works. But I found it was an interesting take on why they would kind of hang out there a bit longer, because they're trying to obviously get back to the 90s, but Magneto clearly delaying things to try and get his way and everything. And then like Charles talking to Magneto, trying to convince him. I liked all that. I always love the Charles and Magneto stuff in anything. It's one of the highlights. But I do like how they do Charles in like almost like Astro, or what's it called, from fucking like Doctor Strange, where he's like kind of like the ghost version or whatever. I forget. But when they do that with Charles to represent like he's mind reading and talking through telepathy, I think that's pretty sick. They did that a couple times. Like he has a vision, or he like is talking to the mysterious character who's at like the end of time or whatever. So that's definitely curious. Like there's a lot of things that they set up in this where it's definitely going to be the primary focus of the show. So I'm curious with a lot of stuff. Like I think the first two episodes had pretty generically cool things that you kind of want to see in a comic book show, where this was like heavy writing and heavy concept and heavy like just new ideas and everything, which I like. But I definitely would rate the first two episodes higher, but this is going to be crucial to the story, so I really enjoyed it. A lot of like deep lore that I'm sure we'll come back to and watch this episode and get a lot out of it, and probably will make more sense of it on a rewatch. So yeah, so King Ramatat, and I think that was the guy who he captured and he enslaved in Sabanur. Um, like he was a cool, antagonist for a little bit, and he had like his army. I want to research the army because I'm sure that has something to do in the comics. But they were like not robots, but kind of robots, but they're like hollow. So I don't really know much about that, but that was interesting. And then the X-Men try and use them to like use the technology to try and add to making a time machine or whatever, like something that clearly is not going to work. But the fact that they, tried to show that they are doing their best to get back, I think that was pretty cool. Sorry, yeah. And then that eventually bites him in the ass, right, with Apocalypse, because he doesn't, he doesn't respect technology, and as soon as he finds that Magneto is lying to him, or at least hiding shit from him, he loses it, and then he kills the guy who enslaved him, and that's where kind of he goes back to being who we expect him to be. But at the beginning, he seems kind of like possibly a new Apocalypse. Like maybe they could change him and make him good, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. So yeah, that was kind of I think that was like not a bad writing point, but it was definitely more of a safer, way to set it up. And I don't know, that didn't make me not like it, but I think it was just more of a predictable, like we know he's going to turn, and Magneto's thing. Like it was just kind of quick. Magneto had a vision of trying to make him good, and like we didn't really get to see that grow. It would have been interesting to see maybe one more episode of him possibly be good, and then like it really switch. But it happened kind of quick. But whatever. They got to do a lot of stuff. It didn't bother me too much. I really like some of the designs of the characters. So like Magneto looks pretty cool. He looks similar to how he did with his like non-helmet look in some of the episodes in season 1. I think Beast looked really sick. I liked his like cover up, and then the arms and sides were exposed and everything. And then Nightcrawler I thought looked dope. He kind of looked like a monk, right? Because he's like heavily is he Christian or Catholic? I think he's Catholic. But yeah, like he gave me that vibe with the robes and everything. And then Charles looked kind of neat too, different like wheelchair. Not sure how that would work, but yeah, like it's cool to see them. Clearly have like behind the scenes, they probably had fun with making these concepts and designing them and everything. And it's cool to see what made it through. Rogue, I can't remember what Rogue looked like. She wasn't in it too much. But I love Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is one of my favorite characters. He's so sick. So seeing him fight for a couple of scenes was cool, but I definitely need more of him. And then, yeah, Bishop. That was the one thing that I was like, what are they doing with Bishop? Like, Forge immediately when he goes back in time. He does he go back in time or the future? Like I was kind of confused with that because I thought there was the future and the past, but both of them seem to be in like Egypt or in the ancient times. So I'm like, who's in the future then? I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, but Bishop being like the guy who's there to kind of save them, you're kind of like, where the hell is he? And then you kind of forget about it, and you get distracted because Magneto and Professor X are an interesting duo. But once they kind of get put in a situation where N.Y is like totally flipped again, and he's pissed, and he kills the guy, and he's doesn't trust Magneto, and that's like, oh fuck, they're screwed now, and then immediately Bishop just pulls out his gun and takes out all the guys, and it's like, oh dope, okay, this is what you want, this is what he was kind of waiting on, and he was clearly in disguise waiting for the right moment, because he also probably saw that they were trying something. They were trying to get and Sabanor to not become who he's meant to be, but he knows in the end all things are meant to be, I guess. But it's an interesting like character concept to have Bishop wait, because Bishop seems to be more like a cynical time traveler, so you'd almost expect him to not like have faith in him changing. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he deep down wanted it because he knows how fucking awful Apocalypse is. So he was like, let's just see, roll a dice, and then I'll be ready to take them out when I need to. So that's kind of what I took from it. But again, love Bishop, such a cool fucking character. And then it kind of ends pretty quickly after that, but it says it's part 1. Like it says Rise of Apocalypse or whatever is the episode title, but it's number 1. And they used to do that with the original show, where it's like kind of to be continued, and so we'll see the next episode next week. But overall, I like this episode. I wouldn't give it like a super high 9, but maybe down the road it will be better. But I don't know, I'd give it like I said, the last one was like a 9.3, and the one before was 9.5. I'll give this like an 8.8 because it was good. I enjoyed it, but yeah, definitely a lot of concepts that you guys see pay out in the long run. So we'll see. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed the video and watch the other ones, and I will keep up with this weekly. So please check them out. Thank you.